Alright, time to pick my favorite film of 2017. It's gotta be Alien Covenant.
It's gotta be Alien Covenant, right? Oh, hey everybody! Welcome to my best of 2017. By the way, I'd like to point out that this is my opinion. These are my 10 favorite films of 2017. I'm going to give you a couple of honorable mentions that I really appreciated and loved. And then I'm also going to give you some other things going from descending order from 10 to 1. I'm going to give you my thoughts on all of these. I actually didn't review all of these films because some of them, it was really hard for me to really work out a schedule, but also at the same time work out the timing for a lot of these reviews. So hopefully this will be just a mini kind of review on some of them and also just hear my thoughts on some of these. So let's talk about honorable mentions first. Alright, in no particular order, and no, Alien Covenant is not in the honorable mentions, unfortunately. I did really like Alien Covenant, not as much as Prometheus, however, that was kind of just a little silly joke that I played that you probably won't find that funny. But anyways, on to the honorable mentions. There's a couple things on this list that people are probably going to be like, huh, how's that an honorable mention and not in the top 10? Well, remember, it's my opinion. The first one being Get Out. I really loved this debut by Jordan Peele, and this Steelbook is just gorgeous on itself. The paranoia in this movie is just very real, and dealing with all the things that this character has to deal with. And it's a comical movie, ironically a black comedy. Yes, ha ha ha. But it's really good. It's also really scary, and it has a really amazing sequences that really just you just really sink in to the couch when you hear the teacup ring. So that's one of my honorable mentions. Get Out. Good job, Jordan Peele. I really enjoyed that, and I can't wait for more of your films. Next is War for the Planet of the Apes. This is the final installment of the Planet of the Apes kind of revitalization trilogy. I'm not even going to talk about that Mark Wahlberg movie. Oy. But these ones were fantastic. Started off with James Franco and Rise of the Planet of the Apes, and then it continued with Dawn. We got more character development of Caesar, and the thing I really enjoy about this is Andy Serkis's performance as Caesar has gotten deeper and deeper. You care more and more about this character and the things that this ape is dealing with, who's turning into kind of a more humanoid ape. And you understand a lot of the character flaws and some of the bad guys. In this movie in particular, we get an awesome Woody Harrelson who's just really messed up and really doesn't know what's going on. And it's kind of heartbreaking to watch all this go down, but also at the same time, it's kind of ruthless in a way. And so that's something I really enjoyed about this movie. There are some parts in this movie that I didn't really enjoy. The comical relief didn't seem with, what's his name, Steve? What's his name? It's gonna drive me nuts. Steve Zahn, yeah. Steve Zahn's character in this movie, not my thing. There could have been some good comedy. Maurice, usually the orangutan, has some pretty good comical moments, but for the most part, it felt flat to me because this movie is a very dark movie, and I expected as much. So this is one of my honorable mentions. I love this movie. And if you were on the podcast or you heard the podcast, this actually was my number 10. I've actually rearranged some of those things. So let's move on to another honorable mention, and that one being Dunkirk. I actually just picked this up finally on Blu-ray, the Steelbook. I actually did a pickup video of it all. It's beautiful artwork right here. This movie is visually stunning, has fantastic cinematography, has a great score, follows around various different people during this battle and this evacuation that's going on at Dunkirk, trying to get out of pretty much the Germans' way because they're getting eviscerated. And you really do feel the things that a lot of these people and characters went through. It's probably one of the more realistic kind of war movies. Now, they did stylize it a little bit, obviously Hollywoodize it. It wasn't as Saving Private Ryan as I thought it would be. That one maybe a little bit over the top. I don't know. I've never been in combat, so I don't know. But anyways, regardless of that, this is a fantastic film. Christopher Nolan did a fantastic job here, interweaving a lot of stories that didn't really chronologically make sense, but for the most part did make a lot of sense visually, and just to understand just this one piece of this great war that happened. Alright, my last honorable mention is something that might piss off some of you, but whatever, it's my list. My next honorable mention is Wonder Woman, which is another great Steelbook I got, one of my first 4K Steelbooks. I really enjoy this packaging as well. 3 of 4 of these were Steelbooks. I love this movie, and I'm glad DC actually gave Patty Jenkins something to work with, made it a lot more bright. As you can see just by the cover, this is a brighter film than the other Zack Snyder films in the DC universe. It's just a better film overall. It's definitely up here, where everything else is down here. Wonder Woman was a fantastic job. They had a really good story. Last act was a little weird. I kind of wasn't as interested. I need to watch it again. I've only seen it one time. But it was visually a fantastic movie. It gave me a character I actually cared about. I really love Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. And so I'm really looking forward to something that Patty Jenkins is going to do again with Wonder Woman. Alright, so those are my honorable mentions. You can bitch at me down in the comment section. Now we're going to move off to the top 10, starting with number 10. Alright, my number 10 is Good Time, with Robert Pattinson and Ben Safdie, I want to say, is his name? Yeah, Benny Safdie. And it was directed by his brother, which I'm going to... Yeah, Josh and Benny Safdie both have directed this. The Safdie brothers directed this trance. It's a really adrenaline-driven film that's just really bizarre, but also really, really cool. It's about two brothers, one who has pretty much Down syndrome in a way, or at least is not all there mentally. Not Robert Pattinson, Benny Safdie's character, and pretty much they rob a bank and they mess up. Benny gets caught, and then it's pretty much him trying to figure out ways to break him out and to get him out of jail. There's a lot of really crazy sequences in this movie. The soundtrack is phenomenal. It sounds like it's straight from the 80s. There's lots of synths, lots of Blade Runner-esque kind of things going on, but also just visually, a lot of the camera work in this movie is just, it's just like cool. I don't know how to describe it. It's like kind of a throwback. It's a nostalgic kind of throwback for that kind of style. And so it's something I haven't seen in quite some time, and it was a really cool take on this whole thing. And Robert Pattinson killed it. So did Benny Safdie. I didn't actually really get too into Robert Pattinson. Obviously, I've never seen Twilight, nor have I seen anything really with him in it that has made me like excited. I watched The Lost City of Z, which was okay, but it wasn't a great Robert Pattinson film. He was just a secondary character. So I really appreciate this. Definitely go check out Good Time, because it is a good time. Alright, we're moving on to our number 9, and I don't have it on me right now, and that is Thor Ragnarok. I really love Taika Waititi's direction of this movie. It was pretty much a space comedy. It pretty much looked a little bit like Guardians of the Galaxy in a way, and some of those people may have complaints about that. But I really enjoyed Thor's new character. You actually see a more well-developed Loki, in my opinion, and I actually have answered this on the podcast. I think Loki, out of all the Marvel characters that we've seen in the cinematic universe, has the most character development. You can see from the beginning, when you first meet him, and then in Avengers, and then obviously in Thor, The Dark World, and then this, and then a couple of other cameos he's had, you can see this character develop so greatly. But this movie wasn't really about Loki. It was about Thor really understanding himself in all this, and figuring out his place to take over, spoilers, take over Odin's mantle and having to defeat Hela. This is a really fantastic movie, really funny movie. Korg was great. That was the director himself, Taika Waititi. I really enjoyed this movie, and I really can't gush about it enough. I thought it was one of the funnest movies. It's probably my favorite Marvel movie this year, although Marvel did pretty much kill it this year, so good job, Marvel. Alright, my number 8 is Baby Driver, and this is another Steelbook I got of this, and it's a really cool Steelbook. It's a 4K, but it pretty much is just a movie by Edgar Wright, and this is the last thing he did before this was one of the Coronado trilogies, which was, and I'm gonna blank right now, At World's End. I remember now, but he is known for Hot Fuzz, and he's also known for Shaun of the Dead. So these are some great films that he's known for, working with Simon Pegg, and now he's working with Kevin Spacey, and yes, Kevin Spacey's in this movie. He did a fantastic job. He's still a good actor, despite all the craziness that have went down with him. We got John Hamm. His name's Ansel, and Jamie Foxx did a fantastic job, and so did Isaac Gonzalez and Lily James. They did fantastic work here. I think all these characters had really fantastic chemistry and made it just a really exciting chase movie. This just heist movie that's just gone wrong, and trying to figure out what's going on between Ansel and his lover. And they're trying to figure out, Baby, pretty much is his name, and they're trying to figure out where where he fits in this entire underground kind of world that he's been thrust into and thrust upon, that he's been, you know, paying off his bills. You'll learn about the character if you watch this movie. This is a really fun movie, and I definitely highly recommend Baby Driver because it's just a fun time. It's just a really fun action movie, and Edgar Wright has really witty dialogue, some really good jokes, and also just really great camera work. Definitely check out Baby Driver. All right, my number 7, it was actually higher on my list, but higher, when I mean lower, you know what I'm saying. However, I've watched a couple of things again, just to get perspective on things, but I just recently saw this movie. My number 7 is Lady Bird. I loved this movie, and I mark my words, it's going to win an Oscar. I think it's going to either win the Oscar, or I think that Saoirse Ronan, I don't know if I said that correctly, is probably going to win Best Actress. This movie is a great coming-of-age movie between a mother and a daughter, and it's more realistic and more grounded in reality than most coming-of-age movies really can, you know, just thrust upon you. I mean, you got the obvious ones from the 80s, like 16 Candles, a lot of the John Hughes films. And also you have Goonies and stuff like that. You have a lot of Ron Howard films as well. But you have these films that are good coming-of-age movies, but they aren't grounded completely in a lot of realistic dialogue and a lot of realistic situations. Some of it's kind of fantastical and Hollywoodized. And that's something I really enjoyed about Lady Bird. It's a hard pill to swallow. Some of this stuff is just having to deal with this girl who's coming out of high school into her college years, and you're trying to figure out that transition, and she's just trying to figure out herself. And I love this movie. I would definitely highly recommend this movie. Lady Bird is gonna win some Oscars at the Academy Awards. That is for certain. To my number 6 pick, which I just got actually today, Mother, and I love this artwork a lot. It's actually not, it's painted, it looks like. It's a painted picture of Jennifer Lawrence with a lot of Mother Nature around her. This movie is a big metaphor, and I didn't really want to get into it. If you haven't seen this movie, definitely check it out, because it's Darren Aronofsky he's directed this movie with Javier Bardem and Jennifer Lawrence, and this movie is really just a big metaphor for biblical stories and Mother Nature going through that entire concept alongside God, more or less. And I love this film so much. I hear all the sound effects. I've seen it twice now. The first time I was like watching it, I was very confused with what was going on. I thought it was some kind of a horror movie, which to some extent it is, in a way. An existential kind of horror, a psychological kind of horror movie. But the other part of it is just this beautiful drama that's also suspenseful, and you're just trying to figure out this entire fantastical situation that's going on in this giant house, and all the people that are messing with Jennifer Lawrence, and Javier Bardem just inviting more and more people over, and just ensuing the chaos. The second time I saw this movie, I really picked up on a lot of things. I actually wrote down a lot of the connections to different things, and was like, this means this means that. And it made me connected more to the film. And this, following Noah, this is a good follow-up to Noah. Darren Aronofsky, I really enjoy his work, and I would definitely highly recommend you check out Mother. Turn it all the way up so you can hear every single aspect of this film. Moving on from there, we have another movie that I don't have on me right now, but it's one of my favorite movies that came out, and it is Blade Runner 2049. Denis Villeneuve, I love this man. I love everything he's done. I think he is visually one of the best sci-fi directors. He does directs a lot of other things, thriller, you name it, noir movies. But Blade Runner 2049, Ryan Gosling hit it out of the park, and so did Harrison Ford coming back. This movie, I liked how it didn't go down the route of this is a direct sequel to Blade Runner. This is literally years and years down the road. It feels its own thing. It almost feels divorced from the original story in a way that it can hold its own merit. It doesn't have to be a direct sequel. It doesn't have to be a remake. And that's something that Hollywood should really figure out and realize, that if you give someone like Denis Villeneuve enough creative control, and you get this really great story fleshed out. It's got very fantastic visuals. Just like Good Time, it has really trancey 70s, 80s kind of vibes to it. Kind of this futuristic noir, this detective story, trying to figure out what's going on at the heart of this entire world in this specific area in Los Angeles. And I really love the acting in this movie, and then the message He's a lot brighter at the end than the original Blade Runner ending, which you need to watch the original Blade Runner. This is a long one, but it's definitely worth your time. Definitely check out Blade Runner 2049. Denis Villeneuve has done it again, and I'm really happy the direction this is going. Alright, moving on from Blade Runner, we have my number 4, and that's Wind River. And this is starring Jeremy Renner and Elizabeth Olsen. This movie, I really wanted to see it because I really love this director. He was actually more of a writer than he is a director. This is his first film he directed, and that's Taylor Sheridan. The things that he's written Hell or High Water and Sicario. The reason those movies are so good, because of the story behind both of those films, really just hits you. And something I noticed with Taylor Sheridan in his movies that he's written or directed finally, is there's a moment where you feel everything that's been building up, and that's something I really love about this story and what's going on in this film. And this movie is one of the hardest things I've ever had to watch and see transpire in a movie. This movie is set in Wyoming on a Native American reservation, and it has a lot of connections to what's going on in the world and the wildlife, and there's actually some spiritual connections in this movie as well. I highly recommend Wind River. I would highly recommend anything that Taylor Sheridan has written. Hell or High Water, Sicario. I need to look into more of his work, but he is a brilliant writer, and this is one of the most impressive film debuts I've seen in quite some time. So definitely check out Wind River. It's a fantastic kind of new Western. Alright, my number 3 used to be a little bit higher. This is where I switched it around because I watched this again. I watched finally the noir version of this, and what I'm talking about is Logan. I actually have both. I have the Steelbook, which I have not opened yet, and then the original Blu-ray Emery. The reason I have both is, well, this was going to get re-released, and I wanted to get it anyway. But this one only has the noir version, which is the black and white version, and I had not seen the black and white version. I've seen this movie twice now. But Logan will transcend the superhero genre. I know I'm probably echoing a lot of other reviewers out there on this movie. I think that Hugh Jackman outdone himself, but even more, Patrick Stewart, I think, deserves a supporting actor. I believe he should be nominated for an Oscar because he did such a fantastic job here. And this is a heartbreaking movie. And it, just like Wind River, it's almost like a Western in a way. A futuristic, kind of apocalyptic kind of vibe to it that just has this, a good guy, bad guy scenario, but set in a way that is super new and super different from a lot of the things we've seen that are like this. Yes, the formula is old, but the formula works very well, and I think Logan visually, acting-wise, acting is the best in this movie. This is probably, in my opinion, James Mangold directed this movie, but I think the acting in this film was probably the most superb in any of the X-Men franchises. And I'm really looking forward to watching this again and showing some of my friends who haven't seen this a chance to watch Logan, and even watch Logan in noir version, because the black and white version is also just gorgeous. Because, I like to point out, and I know my mind's all scattered, this is actually my favorite trailer that I've ever seen in my life, with that Johnny Cash "Hurt" playing on in the background. When I watched that trailer, I cannot imagine a better trailer for a movie such as this. And that's something that it sticks with me, and I actually revisit that trailer quite often just because of how epic it is and how great it is. So definitely check out the Logan trailer, and also check out Logan, because this movie is going to be better than all the superhero movies. It's one of my favorite superhero movies of all time. That's for certain. And yes, it is better than Wonder Woman. You heard it here from me. My number 2 pick is something I also do not have, and that is 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri. Now if you noticed, I have in Bruges over there in the corner. Martin McDonagh is one of my favorite directors of all time. He's only directed a few things. That is his first directorial debut. He also did a really great short you can find on YouTube that you can find. It's called 6 Shooter. It's fantastic. It's really dark. And he's also done 7 Psychopaths. But now he's doing 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri. It seems like he takes a pretty lofty amount of time to make a movie. It takes him about 5 years, it seems, every 5 years to make a movie, and I think that's perfectly fine. But this movie follows Frances McDormand. She loses her daughter and pretty much blames the sheriff and the police department for not really finding the person who killed her daughter and raped her as well. And so what she does is she puts up 3 billboards in this abandoned kind of area of the town that no one really drives by, and asks pretty much Chief Willoughby, who is Woody Harrelson, another Woody Harrelson, you know, Planet of the Apes, and now he's in this movie. By the way, he does a fantastic job in this role as well as Chief Willoughby. And they really, what this story is all about is Frances McDormand, trying to figure out some kind of semblance of closure to finding her daughter's killer. And this movie is filled with black comedy. There's really dark comedy that is just hilarious, but also at the same time super heartfelt. And that's something about McDonough that I really love. He is a playwright. He has his background in theater, so he knows how to build a story, have some philosophical kind of themes thrown into this, mixed in with real human emotions that are sometimes over the top. You know, you see that in Bruges with some of the shootouts that are going on, but also at the same time, it's really grounded in human narrative and human mythos that we really connect to each other. And despite all the terrible things that humans do, we can forgive each other. And that's something I really loved about this movie, is the element of live and let live, forgiveness, but also at the same time, kill if you must. And there's a lot of really insane moments in this movie, and I highly recommend this movie. Definitely check out 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, because it is just it's my second favorite thing he's ever done. In Bruges being my first, I was blown away by that. But I've talked about that movie a lot. So what's number 1? I bet many of you are kind of asking that, but this number 1 will probably shock you, or at least in some kind of capacity you won't really suspect it. Alright, so my number 1 is a ghost story starring Casey Affleck and Rooney Mara. This movie hit me in an emotional chord that really... I watched it by myself in my local independent theater that only has 2 showings, two theaters with a couple showings a day, and I really love it. It's called the Moxie Theater in Springfield, Missouri. It's Moxie Cinema. It's fantastic. They get a lot of really great independent films, and when I watched the trailer for this, but also just saw the cover of it, it looked really silly. It reminded me of Beetlejuice. It reminded me of this ghost or Scooby-Doo, and then they just, you know, put a bedsheet over them. However, this movie is so much more than that. What I loved about this is how much depth a lot of the camera work in this movie really is intimate. There's a lot of really long shots, a lot of really short shots that really just get to grief and loss and meditation on Geist. Geist being the ghost of this place, this person, this memory. And I fucking love this movie. I can only watch it in certain mindsets, but I've only seen it once. But I'm going to watch it again. And it stuck with me so much that at the end of my semester this year, in my school year, I wrote a paper. This movie alone just gave me a lot of connections to the paper, and it made a lot more things clear to me. And I really, really love this movie. Rooney Mara does a fantastic job of mourning Casey Affleck, who dies at the very beginning, and I'm not really giving anything away. That's the whole point, is he's a ghost. And really, you just see her devastated, and you see the history of what's going on in this house and with this ghost, and what it all means to the human spirit. So that, my dour kind of pick, but I really love Ghost Story. It's a really sad movie. I like happy, sad things. So, have you seen any of these movies? What would your list be? I want to hear your list down below. Tell me what your honorable mentions are, and also just tell me your 1 through 10. I know they're going to be different. I bet many of you probably haven't seen Ghost Story. Many of you haven't seen some of these other movies. But I really loved 2017. Now, there are a few things in 2017 I have not seen yet. And I know this video is long, but I wanted to mention I have not seen Phantom Thread, and I have not seen Shape of Water, nor have I seen Molly's Game. I want to hear your thoughts down below on some of these picks. I want to know if you liked any of these picks. If you didn't really care for some of these picks, that's good. I want to hear your thoughts. Give me a like, comment, and share. But don't forget to also subscribe, because I'll see you next time. I'm not jonesing around.